What if I told you there's physics involved in doing business? Just like gravity has laws, business has laws too. There are 4 invisible forces that govern customer psychology and can 10x your sales. These forces are like the physics of customer behavior. Once you understand them, you can predict what customers will buy before they even know it themselves. Meet Steve, a founder of a virtual reality platform that helps architects turn their 2D sketches into rich, immersive walkthroughs for their clients. He used this framework and his sales accuracy jumped from 10% to 89%. In this video, I'll show you exactly how to use these forces to design offers customers cannot refuse. And so a few years ago, I'm pitching my product to a potential customer. They say they love our product, say it's exactly what they need, and we're both excited. 3 weeks later, I get an email from them, thanks, but we have decided to stick with our current process. This happened to me 17 times before I realized I was missing something fundamental. I was focused on wielding just one force, pull, during my demos, but I learned that there are 3 other forces that I wasn't using and leveraging. Our virtual reality founder friend, Steve, from past videos, also had the same blindness. His VR demos were incredible, everyone was wowed by them, but no one was buying. Like me, he usually got the polite no treatment, something along the lines of, we need to think about it, or the timing isn't just right. It's easy to throw up our arms in the air when this happens and dismiss this as just the way it is, but then that's when it hit me. Customer decisions aren't rational or irrational, they are driven by basic laws of physics. Just like Newton's laws of motion, customers too are subject to forces. And until the forces pushing them away from their current solution exceed the forces pulling them back, they won't move, no matter how good you think your product is. Here's exactly how the customer forces work. The first force that kicks everything else off is push. This force is triggered by an external event, often caused by a frustration with the status quo, a pain that is getting worse, problems that start costing time or money, or some other external pressure like a regulatory change that causes the prospect to want to switch to something else. Most founders never take the time to really understand this force of push, which is the underlying motivation for change. They instead focus only on the number 2 force, pull, where they try to attract the prospect towards their new capabilities and promise them better outcomes through emotional appeal and rational benefits. But unless the prospect is already primed for change, they will often downplay or completely ignore these benefits in their mind because the other 2 forces, inertia and friction, play an even bigger role. Force number 3 is inertia, and this represents our resistance to change. All objects at rest prefer to stay at rest. This is the first part of Newton's first law of motion. These are the stories playing out in the prospect's mind. We've always done it this way, or our current solution isn't all that bad, change is hard, or good enough is just good enough. And the other detracting force that keeps them from buying is force number 4, friction. This is the fear or anxiety of trying something new. Things like, what if it doesn't work? What if we waste time and money? What if it's harder than promised? Or what if we look stupid at the end? These are the stories that keep people from using a new solution and keep them stuck on in their mind, safer current solution. A purchase decision then comes down to basic physics. A prospect will buy if the forces of push plus pull is greater than inertia or friction. Now, unfortunately, it's a little bit worse than this because of the principle of loss aversion. Humans don't typically behave like rational objects. The principle of loss aversion is the behavioral economics principle pioneered by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, where they found that people tend to feel losses or negative forces more intensely, sometimes 2 to 3 times more intensely than equivalent gains or positive forces. What this means for us is that prospects will tend to exaggerate their inertia and friction or fear of trying something new and downplay your claims when making a decision. This is precisely why just focusing on the pull or benefits of your product isn't enough. Your pitch needs to work on all 4 forces. So let's go back to Steve. Once he understood these forces, he completely redesigned his entire sales pitch. Before, he was solely focused on pull selling. He led with an amazing demo, emphasized cool technology, focused on features and benefits, and had a 10% close rate. After he reworked his pitch to tackle all 4 forces and he started with push to trigger the motivation for change. In his case, he teased the promised land by showcasing how other architects were already using a new way, virtual reality, in their client discovery calls to close more deals faster. This created instant FOMO in the minds of his prospects. He then amplified their pain to mitigate their inertia or resistance to change by describing how their current solution was incapable of competing with this new approach. I call this step breaking the old way in the mind of the prospect. This setup created the opening he needed to then contextualize the pull of his product with an impressive but focused demo that delivered exactly on this promise. And the final and most fun step was reducing friction by offering, in his case, a Maurya offer with a risk-free pilot period where he would actually help close their next deal with his solution. Who would say no to that? Once he started using this new approach, his close rate went from 10% to 89%, and most architects bought on the spot. That's what happens when you wield not just one, but all four forces in your pitch. In the next section, I'll walk you through a step-by-step process for mapping your customer forces. Step number 1 is the customer forces interview. Now, sure, it's possible to take a guess at these forces, but the nature of new products is that at the outset, we often don't know what we don't know. Unless you're a mind reader, the best and easiest way I find to uncover these forces is through carefully scripted customer forces interviews. You don't need to interview hundreds of prospects to figure this out. Somewhere between 10 and 20 is all the information you need to unpack these forces. And that gets you to step number 2, mapping the customer forces. This is where you segment your customers to identify real and ideal early adopters primed for change and rank the most influential forces to emphasize in your pitch and in your MVP. Then you move on to step number 3, assembling a Maurya offer. You use what you learned, not guessed, to craft a carefully scripted product pitch that hits on all 4 cylinders or all 4 forces. 1, it pushes them to act, pulls them towards your solution, overcomes their inertia, and finally closes the deal by eliminating all friction. Then the fun begins. Step number 4 is where you deliver and optimize your Maurya offer. When you switch from a demo-focused pitch to a story-driven pitch, you lead your prospects down a more predictable path where you can measure their reactions along the way, set them up to buy, or tell you why they're not buying, both of which will help you continuously improve and optimize your offer. And like Steve, move from hoping they will buy to knowing that they will. Now, if you want to map your customer forces, you can download the customer forces canvas we use in my demand validation course. I'm also working on a new AI-powered tool that helps automate and greatly speed up many of the steps above. Downloading the canvas will put you on our launch list and you'll be notified when that's ready. If you're new to customer interviewing, you should watch this video next, where I make a case for why talking to customers the right way is one of the most important skills all founders need to master, and I show you how to get started. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.